Hello, Daisy. I cannot hear you. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now, Sergio?
Yes. Yes, I
All
can.
right. Awesome. Okay, awesome. I'm gonna check and see if anybody's coming to the meeting today. And then if nobody's coming, we can just bill. Um where is it?
Hello, Daisy
Hello.
and Sergio.
Hello,
All right.
Victor.
Um oh, Ben canceled the SIG, but why does he think he gets to cancel the SIG? Because he's not feeling well. That's interesting. Yeah, that's not. Okay. Hey, well, Victor, Ben canceled the meeting, which is kind of odd, but yeah, he canceled the meeting because he isn't. Okay.
Yeah, it's good the opportunity for get you. What's your what do you find out at the Open Summit?
No, well, we did our demo and I was gonna demo it today. Um, yeah, so while I both appreciate what he's doing, yeah, so that it was kind of bold of him to do that. I will make that adjustment in the future. That was odd. Okay, so yeah, our intention today was to demo what we have done so far, but we don't have to do that. We can wait till you guys are gonna, be in full. If you'd like to see it, Victor, I'm more than happy to show it
Yeah,
to you.
yeah. Actually, like to more of a like your off the session discussions about CD event and your control plane and maybe data ops
Yeah,
would
yeah,
be.
yeah, yeah. So where we are, and this is Sergio from my team is on a call with me. So where we are is essentially we are working on what is the playground, which actually just shows the mechanic. And then in the next couple of weeks, we'll get started on the MVP, depending on when we finish the playground. I think it'll probably shouldn't take more than another sprint to complete. But what we showed in the here, let me just show you. That's probably the easier way to do it. And so what happened in the conference itself is that we do junction bugs. Okay, cool. Is that we were showing the mechanic of like how the system's going to work, and the thing that makes all of this possible is there's the CD events, but we created something called Cedrus expressions, and what a Cedrus expression is a group of events that do a set of work, and so during the conference we showed that off, and I'm about to show it to you now. Um, where is it? So many desktops. Okay, here, share that one. All right. Can you see my screen? Okay, so basically the thing that one of the expressions actually lets you do, and actually I probably should have shared the um yeah, this is fine. Okay. So we all know what a workflow is. It's just the steps that say, hey, this is what we're going to go through. What we've done essentially is we've taken the concept of build, and you can break out the steps that you're expecting to come out of the build. And so you can say, hey, for any giving build X, when that build is running, what I'm expecting the CD events to be emitted are in this order of where it says like build started, test we started, build finish, and so that sets the expectation for this tool to say, hey, as this work comes in, we want to do work against it, right? And so the event completes, and that becomes the trigger for the work that you want to do. And so you would have a bunch of expressions, like if you are a compliance officer, you can have your own expressions that say, hey, for this particular workflow, I want to watch for this one event. And when this event does something, trigger a set of work. And so that's the basic premise of how the system works. And then, of course, this is the subscriber service. Right now, it's just a YAML, and this is part of what I'm updating for the playground, so it's a little bit more interactive. But this is where the listening is set up. And so, if you wanted to run any workflow, what we have set up what's going to be set up in the playground, is essentially a emitter that we call Iron Monkey, that is part Iron Mike, which is the pitching machine, and part Chaos Monkey, which is our ode to Spinnaker, being that I'm on Spinnaker TFC. And so you can actually throw like curveballs and all kinds of injections of chaos that you wanted to inject when you run it. But the runs themselves are being emitted by Iron Monkey. They aren't we don't have like every tool set up. The reason that we don't need every tool set up is because all of the tools are emitting CD events, and so they all have the same shape, regardless of which tool is emitting them. That was why we chose CD events to do this. And you can have different steps for your build, because here's a different build. It has a different set of steps than the last one we saw, because you can define it based on what your build actually is. If you have something in your code base that says when build completes do X, it doesn't matter what steps you have in build. It just matters that your build includes a build finished that you can do that work against. And so it's those types of programming consistencies that we'll be able to create. And so things that happen with build started will work for every single build type expression, as long as you have the build started and build finish event in there. You can have an expected behavior from the expressions, regardless of whose expression it is, right? And then if you want to have extra steps or emit extra events, you're more than welcome to do that. The system doesn't break because you're adding extra events. And then if we want to trigger a run, we just kind of push this little button, and then it simulates the run. And this is actually sending events. So you'll be able to, in the playground, expect that event, and then take action against it. It's just a system that is doing it in the background, is like, it's on a timer, basically sending the emitting events. One thing that you'll notice too is that the way that this completes, of course, it's got to complete the whole section before its section completes. The system supports parallel runs and detach runs as well. So we have workflows in here like this one that, wait, this isn't the one. Oh, wait, this is it. Okay, so this actually runs concurrently. So there's two of these. This isn't showing up very good in this, which is weird. But if you should do the thing, then you can see like the detached concurrent runs here. And those runs will just run by themselves separately. It's still monitored, but the parent doesn't wait for that to complete. It's like a fire and forget kind of thing. That's available in that space too. So if you were doing like a lot of different tests at once, or you had, many different pipelines running at once, the system can still follow that along. One of the key things that happens is as it changes tools, because your workflow goes across tools and it's being simulated. Each tool, the library that we would put in each tool, then basically says, hey, this is my tool name. This is the workflow I think I'm running against. Give me my chain ID, and it's the chain IDs from the LinkedIn link service that everything is linked together with. So it uses the links proposal to group these events across devices so that it always shows up. And so that's a really key to how this works, is that it can travel across machines and still keep one consistent workflow that you can work against. And because with the DSSE work, the envelope work that Ben is doing, I mean, the open source product, you'll need to add all that yourself. But if you have that verifiability set up and you go from your tool to the space where you can work, it's super safe, right? You'll have the receipt basically in the event form. Once it's, if you add verifiability, then you can do that work from that verified receipt. But this tool is not replacing like Sigstore. It's not replacing any of your other tools. It's meant to be a substrate for your IDP. And so you build your IDP with this inside of it essentially, and then it makes your IDP a safe space to work. Because as these things complete, you can literally do the work against them or have your AI do the work against them in that space. And when we deliver the MVP, that will be inserted. In fact, for the playground, the ability to either, run a function, which we call the Kone functions, or take an action with your AI will be in the playground itself so that you can use it. And so anyone, of course, in the CDEvents SIG who wants access to the playground, they can get it to see what's coming. And that's our part, essentially.
So basically, the control plane you're developing basically make it easier for developers to use AI in this case.
Yeah, it's easier to use everything. It's a platform engineering platform for platform engineers. I mean, that's literally what it is, right? And it takes all of the elements of platform engineering where you're working with the tools or working in those tools individually and brings all of that data, that programming data to a central plane, kind of like a FedEx, right? When FedEx first came on the scene, what they did was they brought all the mail to a central hub, and having all of that information there and having all the manifests available, you get a wealth of options that you didn't have originally with that data. And so, yeah, if you can connect your ticketing system to this substrate, and that's like your trouble ticketing system to the substrate, then for any tool that you use, when it's done or doing something, if you want to send a message to it and say, hey, I'm going to, update a ticket, it works consistently throughout your organization, regardless of the size, because everyone's connected to the same plane, right? And their tools are connected, and you're responding from the CDEvents, which gives you a common format. And it's that common format that makes this super powerful. The larger the organization, oddly enough, the bigger the organization, the more powerful it is, because all of the data that's coming out of it is consistent and you can work against it. And so, like, your compliance officer doesn't have to go to each individual team or each individual tool team and say, hey, build the API to this thing, use my API, make your tool connect to my tool. They can connect it to the plane, and then anybody who emits the right event to the plane just works. And so instead of taking weeks to set up or add a new tool to the compliance system, it would take a few moments, only long enough to put in a webhook that emits the right event if you wanted to, if it wasn't, natively installed in the tool. The thing this does really is lower that bar to entry into an IDP, because you don't have to do all of the integration work. You literally just have to emit the events, and then you're done.
Oh, sounds very powerful. Any feedback on what AI agent is gonna have an effect on this?
The way that we're building it, it's bring your own AI, right? And so you'll have if you have a key, your API key, you'll be able to put in your API key and send it, because it doesn't really care what AI you use. You're the one giving it the instructions. You're the one telling it what to do with the data object. But what you're going to get is consistent data objects. And so when you're invoking something, your AI will be literally working from that same event data object to say, hey, do X, Y, and Z. But that's up to you to say what you want it to do with it. Right? Because you can even have it
I
like trigger other things.
Can I just understand it like because regardless of the human or AI, you're still using the same repository such as GitHub, right? So that's why the underneath event doesn't change because you still need to commit and update to the same repository, so that workflow doesn't really change.
It's not that it's the tools, because you could be using GitHub, GitLab, and Stash, right, all at the same time. Because the CD events out of those are the same, it works the same. That's what's making it work the same. It actually lets you use any tool you want, but the what's being emitted in the event is what the community says, hey, this is what we want in that space. And so that's what makes it consistent tool to tool. In this way, you could literally connect Jenkins, Tecton, and Circle CI to the same execution plane, and the events coming out of them would look the same. So all of the actions you take could be the same.
How about like Cloud Code or Copilot and all that? Would that be the same?
Well, again, Victor, it's the events that you're emitting from those tools. Cloud Code is something that uses this stuff. It isn't a thing. We don't have currently have events for work on the execution plane itself. The community is more than welcome to add those if we wanted to do that, but I don't see, well, actually there is some benefit, but that's a different, completely different use case that we're looking at for another field, like for telecom. And essentially from the orchestration side of it, we don't care. Like it's only the events we make. And this is why when I come to these meetings, I'm like, hey, this is about what the tools do and the what the tool emits to say, hey, I'm doing work. That's what's consistent, right? Because now you get the data not just when the build completes, you can get it as the build is progressing, which is also something you don't usually get for your SDLC control plane, right? Your IDP usually takes action or does something or monitors something in place. It can't take action as it's going through steps, and it can't say, oh, because of this step came out this way, I need to do other things, based on the tool itself. So if the CI, for instance, ran into a problem with a test, but that test doesn't fail the whole build, it just kind of acknowledges that some upstream service is out of whack or something. You could then take action against that upstream service immediately instead of finding out later on that there was an issue, right? It lets anything that happens in that environment become something that you can take action against programmatically.
Yeah, so the way I understand it, it's kind of putting into my mental model basically is this make streamline the process regardless of AI or not. Because even if you use AI, even you use Cloud Code or Codex, whatever, you still need to commit to a repository, right? Whether it's GitHub or GitLab, they're all similar in this kind of abstraction. So
Yeah.
that's why whenever there's a need to, for example, Cloud Code makes some mistake or people or human need to go in there to troubleshoot and review, those still stay the same regardless you're using AI or not.
Yeah, I mean that saves the same now, right? Even Claude Code looks at your logs, right? It reads the logs just like a programmer would to see what's happening as you run something. But this has nothing to do with that. This is about event data that says something was completed, not the step-by-step logs, because it's not doing log analysis. It's doing, it's taking action against an event. And the events, of course, hold in different slots set data that you're expecting. Like if you do an artifact signing, the SBOM information is always in the same spot, regardless of what tool does it, because the event itself says, put this information in this slot. That consistency gives you the ability to write code against it on the execution plane. Because it's always in that slot where you expect it, any code you write, regardless of what tool you're writing against, will just work.
Oh, awesome. So I see what you mean. Wait for this. I think this the once you have the documentation for your control plane, that would definitely be a kind of a guidance to how to extend it to data ops event because it's a very powerful message.
No, that's kind of backwards though, Victor. To be completely candid, what actually has to happen first is the data ops event side needs to figure out what those, and that's why I'm pushing on that group to say, hey, you tell me what it is that this does, and then we'll incorporate it into the system. Because the trick is there has to be the event data first, and then anyone that follows the CD events pattern or how to structure the events for the tools that it's going across, that is where that's how to integrate it. It's not going to be based on how this actually works. It's based on how the tool works, and then we integrate that into the system, not vice versa. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, they are the reason I think the order. I know what you're saying.
Hmm.
There's so many possible events. That's why
Right.
identifying the use cases and why it's powerful is hard. So by knowing like what you do with CD event, that will give a hint on what event to be, to choose for this data side.
Yeah, I think I hear what you're saying, and that is, yeah, once you say, okay, how did CD events how did those guys do it to figure it out? That use case and that lesson is definitely the same one that we can translate to other fields, but it really boils down to naming the tools that are in the process, right? And saying, this is what this tool does. This is the work that we're doing in these spaces. And what I've noticed is that in um, a lot of cases, people seem to be a little bit reluctant about, saying, oh, these are the steps. Because once you say the steps and they're out there and you begin to standardize on them, then a lot of that smoke and mirrors that people, like, oh my God, we're special, that you can hold on to that, right? Because nobody knows what's in your soup. So your soup is special, even though the only ingredient you put in it is water and salt, right? Um, but as long as no one sees it or knows, you can say it's the most incredible thing ever. So it's really more about getting the group together and saying, okay, we know there's lots of steps, we know there's lots of tools, but we as a group have to say, we always think these steps happen, and then let the world push back and say, no, no, you need this extra one. Oh, no, no, you don't need that one. And that's what happened with CD events, right? People got together and said, okay, I think this is what we need every time we have a build. And so you get the build started, build and finished. And when you're writing code for your IDP or you're doing the platform integration work, you're expecting those things to work the same way, tool to tool to tool. When you're writing the API connections from a Circle CI to your platform and you're putting that into Circle CI, you know what you're going to connect to because it's consistent. It's the same things over and over again. But if you say, okay, because I know it's going to be consistent, we're just going to emit the data and then collect it and do the work. That's the real thing. That's the different paradigm. Being like, oh, I already know that every one of these tools is going to do build. The builds are going to be different, but the data coming out of it that I want to take action against, I want to write code against, is consistently slotted in this spot. You always know where the package is going to be because it's in the same spot on the event. You always know where the pipeline, definition is because it's always in the same spot in the same event. That's the consistency that you're actually creating that lets you build against. But it takes discipline to kind of just sit through and do it. And so that's what we're hoping to do in the data ops group.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, awesome. All right, awesome. So, cool. Now the demo's on film. They can just watch the film. And in the future, hopefully one person being sick doesn't cancel our meetings. All right. So, yeah, that's it from us. We're going to go back and continue our work. Sergio and Mateus, sorry that the meeting kind of got canceled, but we had it anyway. So there are other people. Usually in this meeting, there's about, you know, three, maybe four, sometimes five people. It's not a huge meeting. And so, yeah, it is what it is, and this will be ready, and we'll give it the ambassadors as well as the SIG will have access to it. Actually, anybody in the CDF who wants access can have access. I know the Spinnaker guys want access, and we'll have to check with Ben to see the progress on CDEvents in Spinnaker. I know Ben was working on that, and then he was also working on the DSSE envelope stuff. So we'll hopefully be able to check back with him, and he can report to the group of the status of those and how they're moving forward. Okay. All right. Thanks, folks. Ciao.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You guys.